Welcome back to Chapter 16. In this section, we're actually talking about responsive design, in which case it is the responsive design part of this chapter. The first thing I want to talk about is adaptive design. Now, adaptive design is not the same as responsive design. I want to make that very clear. When it comes to adaptive design, you have one set for a basic standard desktop or laptop. Then you have one set for tablets or phones. And then based on that, you have different sets of style sheets that can be displayed based on the information available for the browsing environment. However, while this may seem like a great solution, you do run into a bit of an issue when you take away the desktop concept and you dive into the tablet and mobile environment. Because when you're dealing with adaptive design, you're dealing not only with just tablets, but you're dealing with all the different models of tablets because every single model of tablet has a slightly different resolution and different layout aspect than other tablets. The same thing happens for phones. Once you deal with phones and you get into the different sizes, you're dealing with a lot of different resolutions, a lot of different display techniques, a lot of different display aspects, and based on the fact whether or not the phone is in portrait or landscape mode, same with the tablet, gets very, very confusing. And if you are using adaptive design or you're creating adaptive design, you can get very tired very fast because you are literally creating a design for every single environment, including the ones that haven't even been invented yet. When you're dealing with designing different layouts for different environments, one thing that you want to take note of is your breakpoints. Now, what happens when a breakpoint is designed or developed is that when you have your overall page and you resize it to a certain point, you see basically where it starts to break down. Once you resize and it works, that's okay. Once you resize and it doesn't work, such as that contact navigation item right there, you can see that this is a breakpoint, in which case we need to make sure that the resolution of 600 pixels and less we have a set design for so that it works and automatically reorganizes necessary content to make it easier to use for this smaller resolution. When it comes to finding the breakpoints, you want to make sure that you're actually designing for mobile or desktop first. Now, the reason why I'm diving into this first instead of just figuring out how to get to the breakpoints is because I want you to make sure that when you're designing something, you know exactly the concept of what you're designing for. Should you design for the desktop and then scale it down to go to the mobile environment? Or should you start with the mobile environment and scale it up to go to the desktop? Well, as far as developers go, it's really a six one way, half dozen the other concept. Some developers like the idea of starting from the mobile and going to the desktop, and some developers like the other way of going from the desktop and going to the mobile environment. There's really no right or wrong answer. It's just depending on exactly what you like best and what you can work with in order to scale up or scale down. For this book, we are actually going to be focusing on desktop first and scaling down to the mobile environments. So let's talk about how you find these breakpoints since we're starting with the desktop environments. Well, once you're viewing a standard web page, in this case it's just a standard homepage for IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, you want to make sure you're going into what's called the Chrome Developer Tools. Now, if you've used this in the past in previous presentations, great. If this is the first for you, then please follow along with the instructions to find how to get to the Chrome Developer Tools because this is a great resource to use when developing websites. Once you go to the actual top right corner of the three dots or the hamburger menu, depending on what version of Chrome you have, you need to go down to More Tools, and then in there you can go to Developer Tools. Or you can press the keyboard shortcut of Windows of Control and Shift and the letter I. On Mac, you're pressing Shift and Command and I. Not the physical aspect, but the letter I between U and O. That will make sure that you actually find the Chrome Developer Tools. Something in the bottom of the screen or something on the right will pop up showing you basically what the code is for that page, giving you a few styles of CSS on the bottom or the right, and then based on that allowing you to manipulate how the actual page can load and how the actual code is being loaded on the page itself. This is good for basic development, but what we want to do is we want to find a breakpoint for our mobile environments. So one thing you need to do is there we go, is click on this little icon. It looks like a phone and a tablet together. It should be relatively in the same location, whether your developer tools are on the bottom or on the right, but it should be the second icon in. Once you click that, you'll notice that the web page itself kind of shrinks down a bit and you have a toolbar at the top. Let's go over that in just a bit. When you're talking about the top itself, you actually have a few different options there. But below that, you also have the option to change the different sizes of what you're actually working with. The most default is a 4K or TV resolution. Below that, you have a laptop large, a laptop standard, a tablet, a mobile large, a mobile medium, and a mobile small environment. All these environments actually give you different resolutions for how wide your actual browser space will be, and in this case, your viewport. We'll get to that in just a minute. You can automatically click on each of the different aspects and have the viewport automatically resized to fit these dimensions. As far as the top bar itself, you have a few different options. First off, you can change the type of design, such as responsive, or pick a device, such as an iPhone, an iPad, or even a Galaxy S5 or a Pixel based on what is available in your version of Chrome. You can manually change the viewport in the pixel dimensions. You can change the zoom of the page based on how you want to see it. You can toggle the online or offline aspect or even throttle the speed to make sure items you have loading can be loaded on the slowest of speeds. And last but not least, you can change the perspective from portrait to landscape or vice versa to see exactly how your page will load in those different environments. Now, as far as screens, windows, and viewports, there are differences between each. Your screen is basically the full width of the screen that you're looking at, whether it's a desktop or a laptop. The window is how big the browser is by itself. Things inside the browser can be called the viewport. That is basically what the web page is being loaded in and how wide of space the web page actually has available. In most cases, the viewport and window are one and the same, but when you're dealing with the simulated virtual environment, such as the developer tools that we dealt with before, the viewport is smaller than the actual window. So in this case, you're dealing with a smaller viewport than the window of the browser. In most cases, if you're viewing the browser in a full screen environment, then the screen, window, and viewport are all one and the same. But in development and coding aspects, such as this with virtual environments, all three can have different values. That's it for this chapter or this video, chapter 16. If you have any questions, please send me an email or hit me up on Twitter. I'll get back to you with the best possible answer.